Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
Welcome. You are tuned into Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here at KCAA AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere, all the major platforms, Stitcher, Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio. I think there's like 18 last time I counted, but I don't have those by memory. But pretty much if you Google Dr. Marissa, you'll find me everywhere because I want to splatter more hope and happiness on you. And I'm on a mission. It's called the Happy 88 mission. I would like 88 million more happy people in the next 8 years. And so that is why I do what I do. And today is kind of a special day. It is the Gay Pride Month. That is June, and it's the 15th. So I thought halfway through the month, I would celebrate this very important day because we're not real good at celebrating diversity or valuing diversity, and we've had just more hate stuff going on than I can ever remember. So I wanted really to take this time and make sure we focused on valuing the LGBTQ plus community. And I have some special things that I'm going to show you. First, after the first break, we're going to show some video and I'll talk you through it for those who are driving, and you can come back on my YouTube channel later to see it. But it was the unveiling of a beautifully repainted lifeguard station. The first one burnt down. And, well, I have my opinion on that. You'll hear about it in the interviews. I got to interview Robert Garcia, the mayor of Long Beach. Those of you who don't know, I actually raised two beautiful girls in Seal Beach. They're pretty much their whole lives. And then when they emptied my nest and went to college, I decided to move where I could get a beautiful ocean view from a high rise. So I downsized and upsized, and you can actually see this lifeguard tower from my balcony. And so when it burnt down, it was hurtful. But the good news is I got called to cover the unveiling of the new lifeguard tower. And so that is why I got to cover it and do interviews and wanted to bring that to you because it's beautiful words from beautiful people. And then at the end of the show, if you hang out and hang around, you're going to hear a great interview that I did right after the Orlando tragedy, all of the killing and shooting at the gay nightclub. Obviously hate crime there, even though, in Atlanta with the spa shootings, they said it wasn't a hate crime, but we all know that when diversity is at play and people are hurt and shot, and when George Floyd is killed, these are hate crimes because of the color of the skin. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so adamant about bringing you guests and topics that help us be part of the change. So the interview that I did with Scott Turner Schofield, he's the first transgender actor. He was on Bold and the Beautiful. For those of you who still watch soap operas, I used to in college, but I know there's a lot of people that do that because they know him, as well as Scott Fullerton, who is the Left of Straight Radio host, who with me actually won an award that year. But I have them because their wisdom is ageless about coming out, about embracing who you are, the process of all of that. So I wanted to bring that to you again. So that's our show today, and I hope you hang around with it. I also would always love at the beginning of the show, I'm calling it What's Up, Doc, right now, because people accuse me of putting my head in the sand and not talking about, what's going on in the news, which is also my big brother, Michael Bernard Beckwith, calls it the weapon of mass distraction, and what's wrong with people and what's wrong with the world. It's really not news, it's old. I do actually listen to the news. I do actually know what's going on, but I choose not to talk about the stuff that I cannot control or be a part of the change. So I thought, since I have a daily show, we would talk about what is trending, but no gossip, no scandal, only some things that I found interesting as a hashtag positively opinionated host. And one of the things that is trending that I love, the fact that people are, it's interesting, all the loss that happened with jobs and careers and all the whining and the moaning and the rightfully so loss, grieving that. One of the interesting trends that's coming out right now is how people are looking at, what do I really want to do? Not just in terms of changing careers necessarily, but looking for employers who will actually value their work-life balance. I've heard from a lot of people who have said, and they've got articles now of, this whole reevaluation effort of looking at what I call, it's not my friend who doesn't have an answering machine. She has a questioning machine. When you call her, it says, "Who are you and what do you want?" And the best thing about COVID, hashtag COVID silver lining, is the pause that we've all had to really examine what's important. I know that a lot of people have moved closer to be with loved ones, so they don't have to travel as much. I know that they work closer or looking for work that's closer, finding places that do hybrid with remote, because we can work well remotely. I know I've benefited from that. I get to do shows from my living room instead of trekking out to studios. So I am grateful that we are at a place where we can actually re-examine. So that's the trend. And so I would ask those of you who haven't watched the trailer, I put a short film together called Post-Pandemic Possibilities, to just check that out. And if you're in the school educational realm and you would like a copy of that to show, it's a great, before we go back to normal, what are our possibilities? That this whole time for us to dream and to think about, impossible turning to I'm possible, and really re-examining all of the BS, the belief systems about what we're supposed to be doing. So go take a look at that and let me know what you think, and come back, because I'll be right back with more Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, here, the morning show. Tuned into my daily talk radio TV show called Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa. Now the morning show, and you're tuned in to KCAA, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming KCAAradio.com, as well as all the major platforms. And I'm delighted that today we are celebrating Gay Pride Month. It is the 15th, so it's the middle of the month, just in time to highlight the importance of valuing diversity on this particular dimension. And I had a wonderful event that happened right outside my window that I got asked by my New York news agency to cover. And while I was there covering it for them, I also lucked out and got to get interviews with some people that you might know and you're going to get to know as a result of the new lifeguard station that unfortunately was there before. Something happened, and this was the unveiling. That's the word I'm looking for this beautiful event that was on the beach. So I wanted to share that experience with you with some of the interviews with Robert Garcia, who's the mayor of Long Beach, and some visuals that you'll probably see when you get this on Tiki Live or Rumble, or most importantly, my YouTube channel, which you can free subscribe to. So it's kind of a cool thing. I'm going to show you a couple of clips. And then this is the after. Super cool.
Good afternoon, this is Dr. Marissa. You know me as the Asian Oprah. I'm reporting live on location at the beach. And this is a super important occasion, and I have a super important guy here. He's the mayor of Long Beach. Welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yes. Why is this such an important occasion?
Well, I think for for the LGBTQ community, it's just an opportunity to reestablish the tower that got burnt down and by arsonists, and so we're just happy to be here and celebrate the community. It's a diverse community. Obviously, as the first openly gay mayor of the city, it gives me a lot of pride to see so many people out, and I'm just happy to be here and proud of the lifeguards for stepping up and doing this for the community.
So there's actually a history behind this lifeguard station. It was built for Gay Pride last year, correct, or the year before?
Yeah, it was actually painted by the Long Beach lifeguards for Pride, and now, of course, we're going to work to even make it an even bigger, better space. So we're really excited about it, and the lifeguards deserve a lot of credit for all their work.
So what would you say the number one thing is for people who are not valuing diversity right now, who are still thinking that we are, different somehow? Is there something that you would like to say as a leader in a group that is not valued sometimes?
Just that you guys got to be yourself and your authentic self, and I had a hard time coming out as well, but once you get there, it's you'll be supported, and especially in the city. So I'm very happy. Thank you.
Case in point right there. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
That was Robert Garcia. He's the mayor of Long Beach, and big day with the unveiling. And here's a nice clip.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There we go. Uh-oh. Oh! Yeah. Beautiful.
And the turnout was just amazing. But my favorite part of covering this event was getting to talk to someone very special, and I'll let you him introduce himself.
Dr. Marissa reporting live. You know me as the Asian Oprah. I'm up here on a very high platform called a lifeguard station. We just had a beautiful unveiling of this painted rainbow valuing diversity lifeguard station. And I have one of the guys whose idea it was, because I go straight to the source to find out. I asked whose idea was this to paint the rainbows on here. And I have...
My name is Jeremy Rocha, and I've been a lifeguard here for 6 years now.
Beautiful. And did this idea just came in your sleep, or what happened?
Definitely not in my sleep. It took a few dreams to get there. But definitely it was something that was pushed by our higher ups, and I was very well supportive of it as well.
So is this the first painting of it or the repainting of it?
So our original tower had suffered a brutal fire on March 23rd. And so this would be the remodel of that tower, actually, as well as the repainting of that tower.
And the first tower was put up by who?
The first tower was also put up by us as well. We painted the whole thing. Same team and everything was cohesive through both projects.
Oh, that's cool. So what happened?
Not much. It was really hard to actually go.
No. What happened in March?
So on March, they had found that the tower had been caught on fire, and then the remains of it were still standing, and that's how they found it, yeah.
So do we know who did it?
No, it's still under investigation.
But it's pretty much a hate crime.
No, actually, it's still quite under investigation, yeah.
We hope it's not a hate crime, but
we hope,
it's
yes.
the only lifeguard tower anywhere around here that was painted rainbow, and it was the one that was set on fire, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm usually a positive person, but I'm also very, very into let's end racism and let's end prejudice and let's value people that are different, especially your community, our community. So what do you tell people who just are bullies and mean and just have no idea what they're saying or doing?
Usually I believe that that is their opinion, and just like I wish for people to respect my opinion, I want to respect their opinion. And so I don't try to challenge or anything like that. Instead, I allow them to have their opinion, and I respect their opinion, and then I have my opinion and I respect mine. And if it is not a mutual connection, then that's okay. I still try to respect them as much as possible.
When you, did you come out before you took the job or after?
Oh, I actually came out during my job. So I was 3 years within the department, and then I had come out, yes. I came out at the age of 21.
And what was that like?
What part exactly? The coming out portion?
The coming out portion at work.
Oh, yeah, of course. So here at work, I deal with a lot of people that are similar age than me. And so I was very fortunate enough. And also people that were superior than me, they're very, still young in age. So I was very fortunate enough for them to all be very accepting and welcoming. In reality, it was quite funny because when I did come out, a lot of them were very congratulatory that I had finally identified with myself. And, they were just happy to see that I was happy as well.
That's amazing. What message do you have to anyone who hasn't come out and are afraid of, being set on fire, so to speak?
I believe that just take it at your own pace, and that there's no true age in which you have to come out, or a certain time within your life that you have to come out, that instead just when you're comfortable. And when you are comfortable, that's when it'll feel most honest with yourself, and also it'll be accepted by most, because that's when the honesty is at its highest. Yeah. Beautiful.
Thank you so much. Now, I do this thing at the end of every show. Are you ready?
Who was amazing and wonderful and such a gracious host on that newly painted lifeguard station in the beautiful rainbow colors to celebrate diversity for Gay Pride Month. And, arson is not going to keep that away. So very proud of the fire department, the police department, the lifeguard department, and the city government for Long Beach, and being a proud member of that. So we're going to come right back with the final segment for this morning's show to celebrate Gay Pride Month with the first transgender actor, Scott Turner Schofield, and Left of Straight radio host Scott Fullerton, who I got to interview right after the horrific Orlando shootings in the gay nightclub. And I had them on, and their words of wisdom are ageless. So without, after the break, with some wonderful words from our sponsor, we're going to come back with that interview. So keep it here. You are tuned into Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show on AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere on KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind. We'll be right back. You're tuned in to Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show. And yes, today we are celebrating, since the middle of the month, of Gay Pride. And I wanted to mark the month in the middle with a couple of things that I thought were worth celebrating for sure. And one of them is my interview with two wonderful people who helped me to understand more what transgender was on a personal level with Scott. And I'll just have you take a listen to this great interview. Is the host of the Left of Straight show, who was actually a fellow winner. We both were in the top 10 Podcast of the Year awards list, Yahoo, for 2016. So I wanted to bring him on, and his friend, who is Scott Turner Schofield, and I'll explain a little about his background. He's the first transgender actor. He's actually cast on The Bold and Beautiful. And a little bit more about him. He's an award-winning actor and diversity speaker. He's performed all over the U.S. and abroad with multiple one-man performance productions like Becoming a Man in 127 Easy Steps. Yes, another sarcasm is another service I offer partner here. And received multiple awards, including the Tanny Award for Artistic Excellence, given to performers who passionately make a difference in this country through their performing. His latest achievement is as I mentioned, the first transgender actor in daytime television, playing Nick on CBS's The Bold and the Beautiful. His purpose in life is to inspire Hollywood, your school, your job, and your family to embrace transgender people. And then Scott Fullerton, who's joining us on Skype, I believe, is the host of the popular talk show Left of Straight, was one of the top 10 award winners. As I mentioned, he was originally from California and now is an active supporter and advocate in Ohio. So please welcome to my studio, two Scotts. Yay!
Yay! Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Absolutely. Thanks so much for finding me here and agreeing to come. So we never have enough time here on the show. So I'm going to start with what I usually do with my guests. Take me back. You were born as a girl, right?
Right.
And then what happened?
Very quickly.
Yes.
Very quickly.
Yes.
I was aware that something was awry.
Okay.
I mean, as young as I remember being aware.
Right.
I was like, there's this whole story about it's kind of a long story. I won't get into it, but I was convinced that my grandmother had cut off my penis in the hospital because my family wanted me to be a girl. And that must have been what happened to like my child mind. And at about age 11, my best friend sat me down and he said, if you don't start acting like a girl, I'm not going to be able to stop what happens to you in middle school.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't know what he meant, but it sounded terrifying.
Where was this?
This is actually in Sheffield, England. I had kind of a long, I grew up mostly in the south of the United States, and then my mother and stepfather are British, and so there was a long period of time in England as well. So I quickly conformed and did the girl thing, and like the good actor that I am, did it super well and ended up on the homecoming court and going to debutante balls and all like I really did it. But I love that tagline that you had about sort of don't die wondering. There was a point in my life where I just realized like, what am I doing? You know, I was 20 years old when I met another man who was transgender. I was aware that there were transgender women, but I just didn't think it was possible because there was no representation anywhere. You could be a transgender man. So I met a transgender man and he educated me and it was amazing. It was like seeing stars for the first time. Like, these have always been here and they're amazing and beautiful. And, and so I came out to my family very quickly after that.
How did they take it?
You know, it was difficult. I'm an only child, and my mother was very invested in the mother-daughter relationship. But after about a year of really intense, sort of having these fights that make you go, oh, this is why people leave their families or get kicked out by their families. Like, this is what happens, right? I'm
sorry.
Thanks, but, it's very, sorry.
That's okay.
I have, you'll appreciate this. I have affirmations come up every hour on my phone. And I read them to myself.
Oh, read it. Let's see it. Which one do you have? I like that.
Okay. I am a movie star.
Oh, nice.
Well, there you go.
There you go. But you already are. So we're just affirming what already is.
Keep going. Well, movies. I'm on television now.
Okay. And so it is.
Thank you. Yeah. And so at one point, my stepdad was like, listen, we have a kid who, went to a top college, has a job that pays for itself, like, hasn't, been in any trouble in life. Like, we didn't do a bad thing. And if any of your friends, Mom, want to give you a hard time, then they're not your friends, because so much.
Very supportive.
Right. Yeah. And, he had to do his own transition. He kept that silent for about a year until it got really bad. But then he just realized, and shared that. And
I saw the YouTube little interview that you and your mom did. Very sweet. Yeah. Very sweet. And she, you tried to give her credit and she kept saying, well, I wasn't that good at the beginning and I haven't done all that. But I think it's beautiful. And I think that is like a good, healthy balance. Of course, you're not going to go, oh, yes, I want my child to be ridiculed and in a population that isn't understood and discriminated against. Of course, every mother's not going to want to have their child face that. It's not even about themselves. So you could just see it, but it was beautiful.
Thank you. And, it's so good because this is what I say is that when a transgender person comes out, right, and decides to transition in whatever ways that they're going to do that, we've been living with this knowledge about ourselves for however long it's been. For me, since I was 3, right? And, I'm sitting there 20 years old talking to my parents about this, and I'm expecting them to be on the same page as me immediately, right? When a transgender person transitions, everyone around them has to transition. As well. Society is currently transitioning to understand
it is
transgender people.
Yes, it is.
And some people are having like difficult reactions to that, but it's all part of the transition.
Yes. And I'll have to put the moose on the table about my own transition to this whole topic. I grew up in Canada in a very small town. There's the most diversity I had was I think there was one Indian food restaurant and I was the only Asian and I spoke German because everybody else did. And so coming to LA was a little bit of a culture shock because we are better at valuing diversity. We're not perfect. And yet, and actually consult and do valuing diversity.
Mhm.
And I just realized, Scott Fullerton, we're not talking with you right
That's
now. I'm so
okay.
sorry.
No,
I'm like
I'm
I'm so into this. But we will get to you in 1 second.
He's heard it all before. Scott and I have worked
Okay.
together for a long time.
Scott is such a very good friend, and the story is so fascinating that I could just listen to it all day
Oh,
long.
good. I love you. Thank you.
That's
But
it.
absolutely. And I want to know how you got to left to straight too. So we're going to get to that. But my daughter, so the two movies that really influenced me were The Imitation Game. So if you haven't seen it,
Oh, yeah.
please go see that. And then the other one is The Danish Girl. I mean, that was just like mind blowing. And my younger teen is so proud of me for having you on the show.
Oh, great.
Because she teaches me about really embracing all diversity, and sort of gender is this sort of the not the, I wouldn't say that's the newest, but it's certainly the one that society is grappling with right now. And I am absolutely blessed by the embracing of gender. And it's great meeting you in person.
Well, thanks so
Yeah,
much.
just finding out about you. So Scott,
The other
Yes.
Scott.
the other Scott, so you're straight, right?
No.
Oh,
I'm
you're not
left of straight.
You're
Yes, I'm
left
gay.
of straight. Oh, you are? Okay. So somewhere I read that you were an advocate, supporter from a straight perspective. I don't know where I read that, but
Yeah, I do my show for both the LGBT community and our allies, though. I was actually
That's
the
why. Okay.
chairman of our Pride Center, and I really tried to bring a lot of our allies into the program because it just really, support is so needed, as Scott can tell you, when you're a little different minority of some kind. Just to have any kind of validation among your own peers is great,
Yeah.
but when you also have another community, just that much more important. So I've always been a strong advocate of bringing in straight allies.
That's great. And I coined this new thing that just came to me last week is mainstream is overrated.
Man.
I love that. Very good.
Man.
Right? Because everything that we thought was right is not necessarily right. It's not, I'm all about feeling good and what is the better feeling thought. So is it better to hate or is it better to love? Is it better to tolerate or is it better to accept?
Or embrace.
Or embrace, which is even that. Even
That's why I love the whole concept of your show, the balance. Life balance is so important for everybody,
Yes.
no matter whether they're gay, straight, bisexual, whatever you happen to be.
Mhm.
Balance is the key to learning how to deal with not only your own circumstances, but helping with others too, and understanding others.
Yeah. And another, so if you're listening and you are not sure or confused or wondering about your sexual orientation, I think many teens go through this. I know my daughter, we have extensive discussions about this with friends. She's a little bit, now when her friends come to the door, I'll actually, so are you gay? And she's like, Mom, just ease it up. This is after I used to talk about vaginas at dinner. So I'm trying to just ease out. But I do have a provocative question. The Facebook has what, 56 categories of gender. 50
yes.
new.
Mhm.
So I'm going to speak as a mainstream American for a second. Are we taking this thing way too far? And please, can we same thing with race? How many categories of race and are we taking the special or the not mainstream way too far?
So, Scott, if I can jump in real quick with this.
Yeah, please do.
Here's the thing about labels, whatever your labels are, right?
Yeah.
Labels are super important when in kind of a developmental moment of your process with that part of your identity. Whether you're someone who figures out that you have a mental illness, whether you're someone who has a disability, whether you're someone, whatever your race is or your ethnicity is, your religion, right? All of those things. In the early phase of deciding, like, this is what you're, or learning or becoming, right? Like, this is what I am, right? Having a label gives you a history to look back on, a culture that's always been around, right? A way, like an understanding of like what's the framework that I'm working within, right? So that you can then develop your identity as the gay person, Asian person, disabled person, whatever, right? Within that framework. And we all have multiple labels, right? Like I'm a transgender person, but I also live with a mental illness. You know what I mean? I'm white. I'm like the whitest white guy on the face of the earth, right? I'm like, right? I have enough money, right? Like that's its own thing. So these are all different identities, and like the mental illness one is the newest one to me. And it's the hardest one to talk about because it's like, oh my gosh, like people are going to know this about me and they're going to, there's all this stigma, like, is it worse to be transgender or have this illness?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what.
Can I ask what it is?
I prefer, I'm not,
okay,
I'm at the sharing that much phase, right?
Yeah.
But so we go through with this stuff and we have all these labels that help us understand what we are. And then we get comfortable with that, right? Or we accept it. Right. If we're not totally comfortable, we just accept it.
Right.
And then we start doing the rest of our lives, right? So me now, I'm kind of like, yes, I'm transgender. That's a part of me, but I'm like way more focusing on the being an actor part, right? Because my dream has always been my dream at 3 years old was to be a man when I grew up. And my dream at 5 years old was to be a movie star. So I'm done with the man part and I'm moving on to the movie star.
Right.
So they are important. They give us a way to connect.
Right.
They give us a way to develop. And people can be annoying about them. That's what I think is the real question. Is why are people so annoying? With their labels?
Like you to the extreme. Again, the balance part. Scott?
Well, it's funny, Marissa. It's very much for the LGBT community. It's even more important to talk about the labels. As a gay man growing up, I knew the LGBT, and as a director of the Pride Center, I very much focused on the L, B, and G, and the transgender was slowly kind of getting to it because it was tough to identify with those in my community. We kind of kept ourselves separate. I think Scott knows that we're seeing a big influx now of coming together, but Scott did the most fantastic TED Talk I've ever seen. And he talks about sex, gender, and sexuality. And speaking of labels, I can kick ass on anyone's Scrabble game from here on out because I know so many terms now.
Right.
But it's so important for the LGBT community because we didn't really understand those terms if you were L, G, or B. Bisexual had its own little set of issues of people thinking they're a fraud, that they're kind of very greedy, want to go both ways. The G and the L were always very well defined. But the transgender and the bisexual, there's so many terms, and I think it's more helping for our community, even though it is for the straight community.
Right.
So yeah, it kind of seems silly, LGBTQ, LMNOP, but there really are some important differences in those to learn from.
Yeah, and I appreciate, and you're a great speaker, by the way. I did look at that.
Thank you so much.
It's not easy to do those talks. So the grounding in identity, which is a birthright that we have as human beings, only applies to humans, is important to understand what your group affiliation is for historic and also for some identity. I think where we get in one pickle at least is when we judge the difference. Why can't we just say it's different without a value judgment on the difference? And this is where we get into so much trouble as Americans, especially because, we'll walk by a microwave and we'll smell something a little different and we'll say, I wish people would just, buy a sandwich, since when, why do it? And so there's this negative, worse than, difference equals less than.
Right.
I'm not advocating, again, the balance, going by and going, oh, yay, I want to try that. No, but can we replace disgust with curiosity? Can we replace, the exclusion with inclusion? So that I think we're learning painfully now as Americans. And what I see in the social media, I love this one interview somebody did where they interviewed everyone and said, when did you decide to be straight?
Right.
And I went, wow, that's a really good question. We don't decide that we're straight, then why would we ask someone who's gay, when did you decide that, or know that you were, that there's an inequality in that. And then at the same time, I think that we do take it too far, because then we stereotype based on that group difference. So all transgenders are, all gays are, all white people are, all Asians can't drive, all the because we want to have a separate identity that is not part of the group. So the melting pot doesn't work. I call it the stew. If you're a carrot and I'm a potato and you're meat, sorry.
Meat.
You're good meat. And then there's some bad meat and there's some good meat. Well, my kids are vegan, so I can't really say that. So but then together we have gravy. Together, and we need all of us to make the gravy, and that's the glue that sticks us together.
I think it's a little bit to do with ego. Right? Your ego is the part of you that's saying, like, I'm the best in the room. Also, your ego is the part of you that's saying, I'm the worst in the room.
That's the critic.
Right.
Yeah.
And
let go of my ego.
Right. I let go of my ego. Yeah, totally. Right. And so, identifying as transgender meant that there can be harm with identifying with the term, because I can look at that and go, wow, I'm 12 times more likely to be murdered. I'm 2 to 4 times more likely to be unemployed. You know what I mean? I've got all of this. 40% of us attempt suicide. Right? So that's like kind of a lot of negativity to live with.
Yes.
Right. And that's something I've had to kind of really dissociate myself with and say, okay, yes, all those things are true. And those are things that I have to take care of my community around. But I'm not that's not me individually. Right. Now, on the other side, my arrogant ego, right, can go, so my unworthiness ego can go to all of those places. And my arrogant ego can go, those gays, man, they're just like the worst. They're so privileged, full of themselves, and blah, blah, blah. Or those heterosexual people, they're the worst, blah, 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 blah. Making myself better.
Right.
And so anytime I'm like in that space where I'm either feeling unworthy or totally better than anybody else, I go, oh, that's the signal that my ego is at work.
Yeah. Right. I call that the swing from I think I'm hot shiitake to I think I'm a piece of shiitake. And it's hot shiitake, piece of shiitake. It's exhausting. Yeah. Exhausting.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I think that we're just dealing with that. Think about all the people who don't deal with their egos, who aren't even conscious that they have one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And,
very good point.
We're just, I look at everything now as a transition. I've completed perhaps one of the deepest transitions a human can go through.
Yes.
Right.
Did you now, can I ask about what transitions you've gone through?
I've done surgery and hormones.
Okay.
Right. And all my legal stuff. And, so like every part of me, except my birth certificate, because I'm born in Texas, where they say the chromosomes determine your sex, which means that in North Carolina, I have to use the women's room. Doesn't that freak you out? And these are the things, right? And this is all political. It's got nothing, and it's about the ego. It's about society's ego saying we're going to make you less than because we want to feel better than, right?
And you hit that right on the head. Actually, I saw that one clip on The Bold and the Beautiful where you say, "Go ahead and fire me, and I'll come right back at you for discrimination." The good news about our laws is we do have equal opportunity. The EO laws. Thank God for that, right? That we're getting And I went and looked up some statistics. In 2012, 3.8% of Americans identified as gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, 1.7% as lesbian, 1.8% as bi, and only 0.3% as transgender. And then, the ego goes, oh, well, there's not that many, right? But if you look at the actual number, it was 700,000. So 700,000 is a big number. Now, according to analysis, we're double that, and so or more is what I really think. So we're 1.4 million adults in the U.S. identify as transgender.
I did a diversity workshop for UPS, and I was trying to think, like, how can I make this relevant to them? And then I thought about it. I was like, oh, that's so interesting. Transgender people, we generally we don't like to go out to buy our clothes, so we buy them online. A lot of us don't live close enough to the kind of pharmacies that have the things we have, so we get it online. And I started, a lot of us don't live near bookstores that have the books that tell us our history, so we buy it online. We're buying all this stuff online, and I did the math according to those percentages, and I found out that it was $16.8 million a year
generated by
just transgender
yeah.
people, which in the UPS grand scheme of things, like isn't that much,
Right.
but it's still $16.8
Yeah.
million.
Yeah. And I love UPS. I actually spoke for them too, but that's the name of my higher power. I call him Universal Power Source.
I love it.
And he's
That's
my
great.
UPS man. He delivers every morning when I pray and meditate. So, Scott, you were going to say something. Scott,
well, yeah, you brought up Pulse a while back. We were thinking, and there's different things that we have to understand that other people don't. Like when the first thing that go through my head when I'm seeing Pulse, along with the shock, awe, and tragedy of it, is how many of those people there. Family knows they're there. There's so many people, there's such the stigma still surrounding being gay that who knows they're there. And then when it goes to claim the bodies, there was actually one person there that didn't want to claim their son's or daughter's body because they disowned them for being gay. So there's a whole bunch of different sets I don't even think about. Gay is not something you see on your skin color or on your features or anything it happens to be. So there's this whole subset of issues that you have that is really kind of when you think about it, and
right.
it's really, really crazy.
Yeah, it is. So let's talk about Orlando. When you like what? So the first reaction obviously is shock at any kind of shooting, and then to find out it was a targeted shooting, right? Because of that, because of who you are. Is there any hope for us?
Yes.
Yes.
100%.
Go ahead, Scott.
No, you go ahead, Scott.
Well, I mean, we were talking about what I cope with talking about, and I think it's very good. I know Scott had real issues with it. Scott kind of had to shut down because of everything for a while. Him and I are very good social media friends. I was the opposite way. When it happened, I was supposed to go to Pittsburgh that day. It was Pittsburgh's Pride that afternoon. It was also LA's Pride that same Sunday.
And that was a really great interview with both Scotts, and I hope you've learned a little bit more about transgender that maybe you hadn't before. I'm so grateful that I have this bank of really fabulous interviews that I get to highlight on the morning show now, since I'm on more than once a week. But I hope you got something out of that. Go to my YouTube channel, free subscribe to listen to the whole interview. Just put in Dr. Marissa and transgender as we continue to celebrate Gay Pride Month. I hope you've enjoyed this particular show highlighting both the great work on the lifeguard station that's now proudly right by my house when I look down in the morning. I hope that you were touched by the stories and hopeful for the leadership with the interview with Robert Garcia. And I'm just grateful, and I'm glad that you're with me as you stay tuned to take my advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. And remember, it's all about balance. Peace in, peace out. World peace through inner peace. This is Dr. Marissa reporting live. Have the best day ever.
Well, she has been dubbed the Asian Oprah, and she just wants all of us to be happy.